So this video is not for you unless you are me from the future. This is me from the past. This was the first observed ride of 2020 on 5th of January. I went down to Wey Valley. I'd been a bit in two minds about whether or not to go because I hadn't really been practicing as much as I would have wanted, but I was persuaded, bullied that I should really go, and I'm quite glad that I did in the end. So went down, got allocated to Tony, who was a fantastic observer. And so this is just us setting off. I'm looking out for Tony, checking that he's there, and then just getting ready to pull out. Where is he? Where are you, Tony? He's over there in the corner on his bike, just starting to move out. So I'm just getting myself ready, getting into gear. Here he comes. Checking, okay, and I pulled out a bit wider than I really wanted to, so probably should have had my feet up a bit quicker and a bit more power and slow control, kind of power and rear brake and positive steer. Looking for the traffic, there's a gap in the traffic, I was able to move out straight away without causing any hold-ups. Not sure whether or not Tony was able to get into the gap behind. I was told that we're going to be turning right. So coming along here, just trying to balance the risk between the hazard posed by the cars that might reverse or that are parked on the other side of the road, causing cars to pull out. Looking for a right-hand turning. I thought it was this little road here, but it's not. It's this one over here. So into this right-hand turn lane, making sure I'm clear of the centre line, looking for where it's safe to have a door's width past that car without hindering the oncoming traffic. Then looking up ahead, I can see there's some vulnerable road users, there's people who are running, there's people who are cycling, trying to stay within the white line if I can, but again, splitting the hazards between the parked cars and the doors and so on. Water on the road, so I'm not going too far out to the other side of the road for passing those cars. Noticing the warning signs for schools and for the bends, left and right. So Sundays are not really going to have too many problems with schools. Out wide here just to maximise my visibility, working to the limit point and then coming into position 2 and then ultimately position 1 because there's a lot of muck on the road. Into position 1 for the right hand bend, maximise my view around the corner to the limit point. And here I'm looking out for national speed limit signs. Can't see any. Looking out, can't see any. Didn't see them. They'd fallen down or been knocked down. So I trundled along at 30 miles an hour. Really at this point getting a bit distracted and thinking, what am I meant to do now? So I remember it's 60, it looks like a 60, but I have not seen a sign telling me it's a national speed limit. So, okay, well, in terms of safety, maybe there's a reason why that marking's been taken down. So I carry on at 30. I'm over in position 1 for the right-hand bend and looking to clear both sides of the road. Once I've cleared both sides of the road, I move in position 3 for the left-hand bend. Coming around position 3, again working to the limit point, following the hedge line. I can see that I need to slow slightly here, but I'm at 30, so just carrying on round. Yeah, so 30, 30, 30, 30. Nothing really terribly exciting going on here, just, trying to stay near the white line and probably a bit too close to the white line at times. That was a bit of the feedback. Warning sign for a staggered junction coming up. Looking to see into the junction, noticing the cars that are coming out. So I'm over in position 1, seeing the bikes coming out, moving over then to position 3, just to make sure I'm past them. There was a sign that looked like a national speed limit sign back there, but it's actually an end of goods vehicle restriction sign. Carrying on down this road, still at 30 miles an hour. Not a lot really to say about this. It feels like it should be a 60 and actually is a 60, but I'm showing restraint. So trundle, 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 looking through the trees at where the hedge line goes round, over to the right, using the limit point. I'm over in position 1, but not quite over into the muck. And I've cut this corner here because I was able to clear both sides of the road and I'm transitioning across now. Thinking about where I'm going to overtake these cyclists, a good long view, so a good momentum overtake here, not having to do a 3-point overtake. Over here now to position 1, preparing for the right-hand turn, and again, more hazards ahead that I'm having to anticipate and plan for. Looking now into the left-hand bend, can't see too much through there. Opens out, thinking about where am I going to pass these people up ahead of me. I do seem to be catching them. even though I'm only doing 30 miles an hour. There's a little queue of bikers in position 2 just as I come past the car, back out towards 3 for the remainder of the bend, clearing both sides of the road and then moving across to position 1-ish for the gentle right-hand bend. I'm at 3 now, preparing for the gentle left-hand bend. Again, probably too close to the white line. I think part of my bike is overhanging the white line, which is a bit of a no-no. Back to position 1 for the right-hand bend. Looking at the hedge line and the limit point. Right, passing the car in position 1. Staying in position 1 because I've got a right-hand turn coming. Noticing that although it's safe, there's a bit of a stability risk, so I'm cutting in a little bit to position 2 just to improve that safety bubble. And here I'm getting closer and closer to these bikes. I think at this point their observer wanted to pull them over and tell them to go at 60 miles an hour, fully expecting us to come past at 60, which we didn't do. We did do a nice little kind of 3-point-ish overtake there, but again, I'm still working on the assumption that I haven't seen a national speed limit sign. Width restriction sign coming up, this little humpback bridge, so just lining myself up, going over in position 2, dead centre really, for this little humpback bridge. Logic of going over in position 2 is that I could, if there were to be something in the road on my side or on the other side, it's a good balance of splitting the risks. There is no definitive guidance on what side of the road you should or shouldn't be on. Got a combination of gentle left and then gentle right hand bends coming up, so I'm bringing myself over towards position 1. Staying safe, not hitting this kind of dirty stuff. Got driveways as well, so holding position 2 through here. Making way for the cyclist, showing courtesy. Noticing the driveways and farm entrances. Looking ahead, road has a gentle bend to it, again giving room for the cyclists. Over into position 3 for this left-hand bend, reasonably gentle, and again all at 30 miles an hour, so in terms of where I need to be, I'm probably over positioning for the speed that I'm doing. Were I to be actually doing national speed limit speeds, this would be more appropriate to use this much of the road. Road sharply turning now to the right, think about the limit point, what can I see, what can I stop within. Rises up and then goes slightly to the right. Narrowing, no white marking, so potentially able to use both sides of the road if I really wanted, noticing the warning signs. And a 30, so confirmation that that area had been a national speed limit area, it just wasn't marked as such. So kicking myself a little bit at this point. Thinking about the driveways, positioning without over-positioning in a 30, height restriction sign we've just come to, and then we come to a give-way junction. Going to be turning right, so I position the bike kind of diagonally, so I'm well lined up to make this move, and I've been looking into the roads as I've been approaching, knowing that there's no traffic. Out, across, over into position 1, probably a little bit too much for a 30-mile-an-hour zone, but I'm extending my view around the corner, noticing the warning signs, slow on the road. Coming over then to position 3, getting a good view, and then coming into position 2 as we actually come around the corner, just in case there's any oncoming traffic, which we actually had. 2 also is away from that pedestrian and away from that car. So that's a good compromise. Width restricted road here. And looking up ahead, we're approaching a roundabout. We're going to be turning right, so I slow down here. It's marked as 50, but slow into the hazard. Good observation, checking to see whether or not anyone else is entering the roundabout. There isn't. A bit of slow control. Over, didn't quite make the exit as I had wanted, which means I'm in the wrong position here. I should really be in position 1, and I ended up drifting into position 3. So a bit too much correction and positioning. 50-mile-an-hour road, dead straight. There are a few turnings and entrances off on the side, so just bearing that in mind. And I've got a blind crest coming up here. So I'm sticking in position 2, gives me a bit of distance from the oncoming traffic as well as distance from the driveways and the roadways that are off to the side. You can see up ahead that the road goes straight, looking at the tree line. And I've got traffic that I do seem to be approaching and catching up, but not super fast. I'm in position 2. It's the safest area in terms of my safety bubble, although looking at the surface of the road, probably position 1 or 3 would be preferable, but I'm prioritising safety over stability right now. Coming down the hill, starting to look into the distance at the bend, so I'm bringing myself over to position 1 in anticipation of the right-hand bend. The cars are getting closer to me as I'm catching them up. I'm considering whether or not these cars are going to try and turn, or they're looking for turnings. So now I've got a section where there's possible overtaking and a good view. Looking up ahead, what can I do? But I don't make an overtake because I'm aware there is a junction, and I don't want to start overtaking at a junction because there'll be a number of other complications. Cars slowing now. Look like they're definitely going to be doing something. Sign for a staggered junction coming up. Holding back just because I'm not going to make the overtake, give myself a bit more room. Let the cars in front try and sort themselves out, figure out what they're doing. So I think we're now into a... so into this larger section, better visibility. Car is turning off, give them the room to sort themselves out, and off we go. Into this dual carriageway section. Moving up on the car in front, but not at any great rate. I'm towards position 3, but giving enough room for any cars that want to come past, so I'm not overhanging the white line too much at this point here. In fact, I think I'm probably just on it. Maybe a little bit close, but I was kind of trying to just be in about position 2.5 at this point. Good long view ahead, looking out for any particular turnings we might be taking, not quite sure of the route that Tony's going to be taking us. Also noting that I am in a dual carriageway section, so if we come to a set of traffic lights, I can probably accelerate away faster than the car, so I'd want to be in lane 2. Looking as we come towards this set of signs, this set of traffic lights and junctions, whether or not Tony's giving me a signal. Don't really see anything, so I think about moving out into lane 2. Heading out to lane 2, see a signal from Tony. We are going to be turning to the left, so back into lane 1 at this point. Looking at the signs, what I'm looking for is my turning. I haven't really paid sufficient attention. On the other side of the road there is a biker. So into this 40-mile-an-hour section, one-way street. Try and get my bearings as to where we're going. Reasonable bike lane on the left-hand side just to help the distance from the driveways. Coming around here quite comfortably at 40 miles an hour, looking up ahead. See, there are turnings. I'm checking with Tony if we're taking any of these. We don't seem to be. So focusing now on the road ahead, we've got a right-hand bend, looking at the limit point, riding up to that. There's a series of right then left according to the warning sign. I'm over in position 1 for the right-hand bend, noting the chevrons on the signs. Looking up ahead, that goes to the left, so I positioned to position 3. Comfortable distance from the oncoming traffic. Double white lines at this point, and then we're into an area where there could be overtaking. So I'm at this point looking for any signs where we might be turning off, just checking that I'm in the right place. Hadn't really thought about that biker, wasn't really paying attention to what might be happening behind. Looking ahead for any junction. Oh, there's a biker. So, yes. Demerit points to me, not checking in my mirrors sufficiently. Demerit points to them, because that's a little bit more than 40 miles an hour. So, over the brow of this hill, I'm holding my position to deter the cars from overtaking that cyclist. Trying to dominate my space, keeping myself a little bit safer in terms of my safety bubble. Thinking about where I'm going to overtake this cyclist, so gentle momentum overtake here. Sign for a staggered junction coming up, another warning repeater sign. Slow in the road, here is the junction, 40 miles an hour. Over the crest of this hill, I'm going over in position 2, which I think here is sensible because of the way the driveways are and the entranceways are and the oncoming traffic. Thinking about where do I pass these cyclists. I've got double white lines, so I don't want to cross those, but I've got enough room to come past gently. Just holding back here a little bit while this car is here, and then able to pass just on these broken white line sections for myself. Coming back over then, thinking about this left-hand turn, becoming a right, so looking to move across from position 3 to position 3 into position 1. More cyclists ahead, thinking about Where am I going to overtake them? Holding position 1 as I come round, extending the view, oncoming traffic, so it makes it a little bit tricky. But trying to just plan and anticipate, observe, anticipate and plan. Where will I make an overtake? I will be overtaking this cyclist unless they suddenly want to turn right or something. Nope, all looks good. Extending my view by being in position 3. Enough room to come past? Yes, happy with that. Through we go. Position 1 for the right-hand turn, but when I can see the other side of the road, I go over to position 3 because I've got a left-hand bend coming up. Riding to the limit point and back into position 1 for the right-hand bend, following the limit point, noticing the slippery road surface warning. And this is a slightly more complex area, so I'm looking in my mirrors here whether or not we're going to be taking any of these turnings, noticing the warning signs for bumps. So there's turnings here and the roads become quite wide and we're in a 40-mile-an-hour section. So just looking to see any signs that we might be taking these turnings. No, nothing. So I carry on through. But it's a frustrating area, I imagine, if you are someone who is desperate to get past. So I think we've got car driver, or a BMW driver, desperate to get past. There we go. Into the National. And then within a few seconds, I've kind of caught them up. But they do seem to be a little bit erratic. So whilst we are now doing national speed limit speeds, I'm very wary that they might do something a little bit impulsive. So I'm looking ahead, trying to look at the limit point, noting the staggered junction signs, looking to see whether we're taking these junctions. I'm out in position 3 for the left-hand turn, and equally if I needed to take that left-hand turning we could, right-hand turning we could. Looking ahead, BMW driver's gone off. I'm in position 1. There's some bikers around, just like that. Again, they're not terribly keen on doing national speed limit speeds. So I'm aware they've got a second biker following, but there are broken tree branches and things in position 1. So I'm holding in position 2. Nice wide road. I'm giving room for the other biker to come past. Just like that. Looking ahead now, I've got a left-hand turn, so I move myself back to position 3 in this amazingly wide bit of road. Following that hedge line round to the limit point, no problems at all. Traffic is a little bit denser here, and I'm seeing now we've got some warning signs, and we've got a speed limit change coming up, so I'm just easing off on the power, rolling off acceleration sense, changing gear and using engine braking appropriately, trying to slow the speed, then change the gear, then use engine brake. Came through at 30 without touching the brakes, which was great, although it meant I didn't hit a brake light switch to communicate with the vehicles behind, so possibly something for me just to anticipate tapping a brake as I come into one of those zones. Here in the 30, I'm anticipating these cars being held up here for a little while, petrol station and so on, so I've eased off and I'm going very slowly so I can maintain my own momentum and forward progress, because that gives me a bit more agility and control of where the bike goes rather than trying to scoot along. Looking ahead at the potential hazards, just trying to split the hazards here, anticipating whether the traffic light's going to change. No pedestrians activating it, so that was good. Looking at these bends here, coming out for the car, just avoiding the car doors and slowing here. And I'm using quite a lot of the road, which in a 30-mile-an-hour section is probably overkill. I don't really need to be positioning over to position 1 quite so much, even though it's a right then left. So into the right-hand bend, width restriction, take position 2 through here, noting the van, holding myself a little bit, then into position 3, coming around. It's all at 30 miles an hour, so the benefit of me changing my position isn't huge in terms of the extra visibility I get. I'm not really going to be able to make use of it in terms of stopping distance, so probably too much movement here again into position 1. We're in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. No real need to have to be able to see that far, and by changing my position so much, have I compromised my safety? That's the balance I'm trying to make. Again, I'm well over to the white line at this point, probably mirrors hanging slightly over the white line. Not great. Still in a 30-mile-an-hour section, splitting different hazards there between the pedestrians and the oncoming car. And I think at this point, Tony's trying to think about, well, bit of a demonstration ride for not over-positioning in the 30, and he's also thinking about where's our first stop going to be. So interesting to note, so whilst Tony is moving around position 2, so he's in about position 2, 1.5 just here as we come around that corner, position 2.5 maybe there, 2, dead centre of the lane there, position 2. He's anticipating the confusion at the junction there with the car parked on the junction. He's not using the full width of the road. It's only a 30-mile-an-hour section, and I think that was part of this demonstration. It does all flow nicely together. Now we're coming into a 40. Pulls away gently, but businesslike, I think is the expression you meant to use. Pulls away, but still not too much over positioning. Yeah, very kind of solidly in position 2, 2.5 as he comes around that bend there, holding it as he comes around the bend, working to the limit point, over into position 1. We're in a 40-mile-an-hour zone, so actually the benefit of the positioning is probably greater at this point, noticing there's quite a lot of build-up and muck in position 1. So thinking about safety, he's in position 3 there, moving back into 2 as the car comes past, and then transitioning nicely into position 1, noting the junction there, over towards 3, then 2 for the point that the car is coming. So all of this I think is very helpful just to see. Warning sign for the junction coming up. He's over in position 1, flowing round. Past the junction, he's heading now again towards a further right-hand turn, but then positioning for position 3, coming in for the left. Noticing the limit point is quite pronounced, and we've got a brow of a hill. I would be taking this in position 2 normally. He's gone over in 2 as well, I think, in that case. Seems a reasonable position given the fact it's a left-hand turn. So now we're coming to a right-hand bend following the hedge line. You can see the limit point getting closer, and that's the brow of a hill. It extends the limit point suddenly. Sign for some kind of village, and into this right-hand bend. Signs now for a junction. Checking my mirrors because Tony is going to be turning here. Staggered right-hand junction. So he's turning here. He said he wanted to get a bit ahead so that he could clearly show he was turning and stopping, not just turning and going into the road. So I keep my momentum, keep moving slightly while this is going on. Coming past the centre line, seeing, do I go behind the bike? No, I'll go in front. So putting myself here, I'm not in any danger. I'm well positioned to be able to pull away. I'm not inconveniencing that person in their driveway, although they're probably a bit fed up of bikers parking up just here. So, quick chat with Tony. Feedback was a bit close to the white line in the centre of the roads at times, otherwise alright. Over positioning in 30-mile-an-hour section slightly, that's alright. If you're slowing into a 30-mile-an-hour section, maybe consider a bit of a tap on the brake. If you're on the country roads, just beware of the build-up of rubbish in position 1. Otherwise, no real concerns. So off we go. This is a 40-mile-an-hour section. We've got a left-hand bend coming up, warning sign. It's got an information sign saying 20 miles an hour, but that is not an order. You're not obliged to follow it. So I'm riding to the limit point here, and then you can see the limit point goes further away suddenly. Over into position, well, let's call it 1.5. As we're approaching here, over this, it was a slight blind brow, and then we're coming into a right-hand turn. There are some parked cars and car park sections, so I'm in position 2 at this point here, just trying to anticipate whether anyone might come out from a car park or a driveway. It narrows as well, so trying to anticipate the need for an extended braking distance. A single track road, I need to double my braking distance because I really have to anticipate my braking distance and theirs. Plus the road surface is pretty poor. Trying to give space to these other road users and share the road. I'm in position 1 to extend my view around this bend here, but not so far in position 1 that I'm in some of the muck that's on the very edge. Looking down here, following the line of the road, giving space to this car here. I'm going to need to pull out to position 3 to get a better view at this point here. easing in terms of speed, just working to the limit point and thinking about that double braking distance I need. Over into position 1, giving a bit of view here, and position 1 there, I did go over some broken road surface, but safety over stability. It's a little side road. I hadn't really anticipated it sufficiently, otherwise I would have been probably more into position 2. Following the line of the road and the limit point, I could see it went right and now it goes left. So I'm trying to get towards position 3 or 2.5 at least. With these very tight turns, I'm trying to anticipate that there might be someone coming the other way and just give myself a little bit of extra escape room. The road on the left I had anticipated, so I was a little bit wider for that. I can see there's a road joining on the right, so I'm looking into the road, checking it's clear before I position my bike into that space. Warning sign for staggered junction. Clearing both those roads before I really commit the bike to a position. And then coming through the slightly tighter section here, noting the driveways, working to the limit point. Giving the cars a bit of room, so I'm in position 2 or possibly even 1.5 at this point here, just to make sure there's enough room for us to pass each other and share the road space. Towards position 3, it's safe, giving myself view as well. You can see nice and clearly down here, so I'm putting the bike in a higher gear, just relaxing the engine slightly. Slow on the road, then coming back down through the gears, anticipating this corner, and I think I hadn't quite timed that all well, so I lost a bit of confidence coming around this corner, and I could have been a little bit... No, probably just continued with the power, and I actually eased off a little bit, so the bike felt a little bit squirrely at one point there. But back into this road, relaxing the engine, dead straight road, having a look around, having a look behind. So following the road line, slow on the road goes around to the left, bringing myself out towards position 3, back towards position 2 for the to deal with the oncoming vehicles. Car doing some odd ballet over here, so bringing myself away from that hazard. Extending the view again back to position 3 as I look down this road. So we're still in a 40 mph section, at this point probably doing about 40 miles an hour. Giving a bit of space to the oncoming traffic, noting the other driveways and trying to clear those. Road going around to the right, myself coming over to position 1-ish, 1.5 maybe. Having cleared those sides of the road into 2, giving a bit of space to the junction. Towards position 3 at this point, looking around the left-hand turn, working to that limit point. Tightens up here, and then opens out. Over towards position 1.5 to deal with that car, relaxing the engine because I've got a nice view. As we start to come up this slight incline, managing the gears to give myself power and control. There's a reasonable amount of torque in the engine because it's quite a big engine. Dealing with this width restriction, noting the car park here, so just giving myself a bit of space from that over to position 3, but easing off on the speed because there are like to be people around, and indeed we have. Cyclists, pedestrians, so position 2 really, and then over towards nearer to position 1, but just looking at the build-up of muck on the road. Got a combination of left and then right-hand bends. So working here to the limit point getting closer, 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 and then opening, 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 and opens out there. Looking ahead, there's road bends around to the right, but there seems to be through the trees something happening, so just easing off on the power, and we see another car doing a little bit of country ballet. Just slowing, letting them deal with themselves, get themselves sorted. Bit of a courtesy, thank you very much for getting out of the way, and off we go. Over to position 1. Looking for into this right-hand bend, not a lot I can see through the trees. I can see the wall and the hedge line. Well, the hedge line really just carries on through, noting the junction. Goes into a left, giving myself enough of a view, but not committing myself over to position 3 because it's a blind corner. Looking down here, downhill. Probably was in too high a gear at this point and could have really have done with slowing down, so I think I used a little bit of brake and I could have anticipated that. Gave a bit of room to the oncoming vehicle here, noting that we have got driveways and things, so easing off on the speed as we come through, just in case anyone leaps into the road. Again, further decline, slope going down and looking ahead, able to relax the engine a bit. Blind crest coming up, and I've got some hazards on the corner here, so I create a bit of space by moving over towards position 1. Back into the more central position of the road. No white lines, so I could be using more of the road. We have traffic coming, so I'm slowing, sharing that road space, going past gently. Safety first, then stability. Moving away from the pedestrians, giving the other biker a bit of space. Right-hand turn coming up, so I'm staying out to the left without getting into some of this muck here, so safety bubble, thinking then a bit about stability, and then thinking about vision. That middle section is probably quite slippery, so I want to try and avoid crossing it too much, and now we've got some white line marking, so trying not to hang the bike over the white line. To try and stay away from that car, it's parked itself at a junction. Right hand bend coming up, so I'm heading over towards position 1, looking into it, looking through the trees beyond it as well, trying to get some clues as to where the road might go. It's actually a T-junction, sign from Tony, we're going to be turning left at this point, so I'm looking deep into the road, so I don't have to stop, but I've slowed enough to give myself time. Off we go into position 3. It's a wider road, it's a more well-maintained road. Sharp turn here, following the limit point, becoming a sharp right-hand turn over to position 1, looking around, nice positive steer as we come through there. Anticipating this left, so moving myself out towards position 3 without hanging the bike over the white line, back towards position 2 just to deal with the oncoming car. Got warning signs coming up for the left-hand bend, looking across the fields, and actually the field line looks like it could have gone either way there, so the warning sign's quite helpful. Looking then to the left-hand bend, towards position 2, and I'm anticipating then this right-hand turn, so I bring myself into position 1, avoiding some of the mud on the outside there. Looking deep into position 1, I can see that actually it straightens out and opens out. Bring myself then back across for this next bend. Over to position 1, avoid the mud, coming around, following the limit point, having seen it through the trees. We're heading uphill slightly now, I think. Slow on the road there for the oncoming traffic, suggesting that there's a bit more in the way of junctions and so on. Over this blowing crest in position 2, possibly this one should have really been in position 1. It's unlikely to have pedestrians, and the road was, if anything, leaning slightly towards the right. So here, going around to the left, and then we have a gentle right following. Over to position 3, just to look and extend the view and maximise my safety bubble from the verges, I suppose there should be, and the entranceways. Slight left-hand turn, so I'm in position 2, balancing the risk, and then we've got a road come across, so I'm looking right the way across the road. 1, 2, we're turning left, 3, 4, so looking too many times, and probably a longer look before entering the road rather than 2 short looks would have been more effective. We're into a 30-mile-an-hour section at this point. I'm looking for Tony, and I'm looking for if there's any signs to indicate where we're going to be going next, if he's telling me to go straight on or not. No signals, so we're going straight on. I'm looking ahead, 30 miles an hour, trying not to overposition, trying not to be too near to the centre line. You can see the hill is coming up, and we're coming into a national, and there's some cyclists that I've spotted through the trees, so I'm thinking about where might I need to overtake them. So I'm trying to prioritise and plan. I've got a good section of road, got a good section of visibility, I've got some oncoming traffic, so able to close up, enough space to overtake, coming around. Kind of a momentum overtake. It's, yeah, I didn't really need to stop anywhere. Stagger junction warning sign coming up, and we're coming up to a crest. So again, I tend to be position 2-ish. I'm over in 2-ish, which I think for that is fine. The car was there, so it's a good split of the hazards. Now I've got a right and then a left, and a good view across the field, so I can kind of see from the hedge line where the road goes, and even the car roof line, I can see how tight that bend is going to be. Positive steer coming around, see by the horizon line, nice positive steer coming around. Approaching now this left-hand turn. It's a little harder to quite see where it goes because the road goes through in this little woodland section. So over this brow, looking at how the road turns around, turns to the right. Got some buildings coming up, so just anticipating whether or not I need to slow, whether there's any kind of driveways or junction ways. Looking ahead, I can see across the field it goes right then left. So position 3 and then over into position 2 because of the oncoming traffic. Seeing the driveways, heading up here, it's got a slight turn around, it's turned to the left, so I'm over in position 3. Nice wide road, good visibility. Slight turning out of the road to the left and tightening up with the limit point, so easing off on the power as we come through. Limit point tightening and opening up now. It's a blind crest again, so I can see it goes off, so over towards position 1, but I've cleared both sides of the road, so I'm holding 3 in anticipation of this left-hand turn here. Back to 2 to avoid the oncoming traffic. Splitting the hazards that are there. Signs for some sharp bends coming up, 50-mile-an-hour section. Sharp bend to the right. Difficult to quite see how far round because of the houses. So I'm in position 1.5 possibly there, having cleared both sides of the road, moving over towards position 3 without hanging the bike over the white line. Back towards 2. So I'm actually holding in 3 at this point, so I must have slightly cut the corner, avoiding the parked vehicles, splitting the hazard between the 2 parked vehicles. Left hand turn slightly, and then this right, so I'm staying over towards position 3, coming back into about 2.5 in case there was any traffic coming, but it's fine. Looking down the road, sticking into position 2 just because of the number of driveways and other things that are here. Right hand turn and this kind of junction thing, and a bit of a countdown marker as well. Countdown for the roundabout. Countdown. I'm looking into the roundabout. I'm going slowly in here, checking if there's anyone coming, check if there's anyone coming, and there is, but not in my lane. So I'm out, and this McLaren then comes past, staying in their lane. Now, they might have changed lanes, so that was possibly a little bit risky, my pulling out, but I thought it was all right. They come out, they come into my lane. Porsche comes out, they stay in the lane. So I thought it was fine, but it possibly is one I questioned immediately afterwards and distracted myself a little bit. 2 lanes then become 1, so I'm watching out for anyone coming, but overtaking the cyclist and momentum overtake at the same time. Looking ahead, the car's zooming off. This is a 50-mile-an-hour section, but I'm fully anticipating that a lot of road users will not do 50 miles an hour. So I'm possibly going to be a little bit of a hazard for them, so I'm just watching out for anyone who does want to kind of come past, particularly on these dual carriageway type sections. They're marked as a 50. But people, I suspect, will treat them as national speed limit 70 type zones, or just disregard speed limits entirely. There are some junctions and driveways that come off on the left, so I'm just keeping an eye out for those. Trying to use what I've got in terms of the width of the road, but again, I can see a good long distance ahead of me in terms of stopping distance. So junction here, so I'm just staying away from it in position 2. Looking up ahead, I'm making or catching up on the cars in front, so they're obviously doing slightly less than 50 miles an hour, but it's not entirely clear by how much. And if they're doing significantly less than me, I'm thinking through the fact that they are essentially a hazard, and I need to think about how I would overtake. But I'm a hazard for people who want to do more than 50 miles an hour. So trying to keep my eyes on the mirrors, checking. I think the recommendation is to try and check every 11 seconds-ish, something like that. But just keeping a regular eye on what's going on behind. Seeing this vehicle moving, I've pulled out just to avoid having to slow down myself. They created a hazard by turning. And I'm trying to just stay out of the way of anyone who might want to overtake. Here we go, another one. And watching out for these driveways. And up ahead, I've got another slower moving vehicle. So I'm heading towards position 1 to extend my view. There are junctions and turnings on both sides, so I'm just keeping an eye out. Another car coming past. Giving people room when they need it. Not going beyond the speed limit myself, so we're still at a 50. position 2 just while I manage these driveways. Signs coming up here, further junctions joining. Following the road that goes round gently to the left, so just coming over to about position 2.5. Giving room to the cars that are parked and emerging, noticing the warning signs for other vulnerable road users like horses and so on that are going to be coming out. Giving space to the junctions, turning on the right, as well as these driveways and entranceways on the left, so position 2 through here. Slower moving vehicle beside me. We can see this car might want to cut in, so I come into position 1 in case the silver car wanted to, or was forced to come into my lane. They weren't, fortunately. Following the road round, I can see it goes around to the right. Can't really see what's beyond it, but there are some big road marking signs, so I'm anticipating there's some kind of junction, and they've got a roundabout sign. Sign from Tony, we're kind of looking out for, are we going straight on, are we going right, are we going left? So I'm slowing my approach, we're going to go left. I'm looking into the roundabout, seeing is there any need for me to slow, are there any clues about the amount of traffic coming past? Where do I position my bike to make sure I'm dominating my lane? There are people who are coming past. Are these two cars turning across my path? No, they're not. That's fine. I'm able to move out. Come straight across and here, and then we're into a 30. So just dealing with these vehicles dominating the road so they're not trying to overtake the cyclist. Giving a bit of space and letting these guys sort themselves out. Looking out for the pedestrians up ahead. A couple of sets of pedestrians I can see in the distance. So checking whether or not these guys are going to come back in the road, whether or not these guys are going to dart out. No, they're all fine. And just trundling through. Road slowly curving around here to the left. Look at the limit point here. Try not to overposition in the 30 and not get too close to the white line. More pedestrians, more cars emerging, making eye contact, trying to hold that car so it doesn't pull out in front of me. Checking that they have seen me. So warning sign for staggered junctions, giving a little bit of room to the driveways here, driveways and all sorts of things coming out here because we're in this more urban environment. Parked cars causing a narrowing of the road, so anticipating how I'm going to overtake them. This is pretty easy, this bit here. Seeing car emerging over here from a junction, just holding them with eye contact. Coming further down the road, being aware of the pedestrians who are around. And again, potentially further narrowing of the road from people who've parked. Just trying to anticipate how do I deal with this group, because actually the road is narrower here by virtue of the fact they've parked and I've got some oncoming traffic. Planning ahead, think about when it might happen. No, it's fine, able to come through. Similar here, able to come through, but managing my speed accordingly so we're not freaking out any of the oncoming traffic. So it's safe, it's legal, I've got an advantage coming past the cars, and it's perceived safely. This junction, I'm really not sure where I'm going. I have to go to the left, but there are two lanes that we could be turning into, and I kind of need to know which lane we're going to figure out when it's safe for me to go. So I'm hesitating here, trying to get a signal from Tony as to where we're going. Mention I made the decision to go to this lane, and oh, we're going to go to the other lane. Fine. So cross into the other lane, safe to do so. Into this one-way street section, so we've got hazards and parked cars and people leaping out potentially from both sides. So keeping my speed well managed. Seeing the school, seeing the DIY centre, often busy on a weekend. Managing the junctions, checking into the junctions in case anyone is charging around. It's a good time for learner drivers to be charging about. Using the road, and here I'm kind of looking to see are there any signs for where we might be going to, because the lane now splits to left and right. Signal from Tony, we're going to go right. So easing my speed down, can see the cars up ahead had been slowed or stationary. Coming to the traffic lights might change, but no, it's fine. through we go, but going slowly, just managing this with acceleration sense. Signal from Tony, around about here we're going to go left. So having checked mirrors, I'm turning off here. Again, noting we've got slight hazard from parked vehicles up on the sides of the pavement here, and the oncoming traffic and pedestrians around as well. So managing all of this. And I think somewhere around here Tony wanted to pull over, so he indicated to the left, which I assumed was a signal to turn, so I turned left and went up this road, which has got very few places to stop. So we eventually, after kind of figuring out what we're doing, had stopped in a little car park section near a train station, had a bit of a chat. Again, no major issues. Thinking about how close one is to the white line. Yep, no, generally things were pretty good at this point. I did start the bike and I didn't hold the clutch in. I was aware of that at the time, so that's a bit of a machine sympathy no-no. Coming out here, we're turning left, so I look down the road. It's clear for me to come out. Out I come. I'm checking my mirrors, managing the hazards up ahead as well. Checking my mirrors, I can see Tony is delayed by the car coming past, so I'm just trying to manage my speed so I can maintain contact with Tony without becoming a hazard myself. Into this 40-mile-an-hour section, I'm kind of pulling over slightly to the left so that any traffic that might be coming past can come past, and also so that Tony's able to catch up. Still can't see him, still can't see him, still can't see him. So, okay, just pulling over where it's safe to do so, and if someone needed to overtake me, they could do safely with good visibility. So I'm waiting here. Can I see him? Yep. Okay, off we go. So, 40-mile-an-hour section. I'm in position 1 already. A bit of muck in position 2, so just managing that coming through. Minded the bike, position 2, coming around this corner here. Combination of bends. I can see it's going to go right, so I position myself towards position 1 without hitting the muck. And then into position 2, 2.5 as we come around this gentle left-hander. Another left-hand bend coming up, so again I was in 3, and then back into sort of 2.5-ish. A little combination of sweeping gentle bends towards position 1-ish, 1.5 maybe. Again, it's a bit rubbishy on the side of the road. Pedestrians, I slide right down here. Blind crest plus pedestrians on both sides. So happy to go with that in position 3. Back towards position 1.5 for this slight right, and then following the rule round goes to the left, so over to about 2.5-ish. Looking ahead, good clear road. I can see from the tree line and the gaps in the trees where the road's likely to be. Gives me some clues. Looking deeply ahead, it's nice and open, able to relax the engine slightly here. Able to get a bit of a view. So that. And yeah, looking ahead. Nice sweeping road. Gentle right-hand bend, so I'm sort of towards the left. And then here I'm looking up ahead towards this gap in the trees and seeing is there a potential hazard here that I need to manage. Someone's parked here. How am I going to come past them? Not great visibility, and then when it's enough, I'm able to come past. Bit of a momentum overtake-ish, maybe just a passing manoeuvre. Possibly could have indicated. Coming down here, again, nice open bit of road. Able to see really well on both sides of the road. There's quite a few cyclists around and pedestrians around, so just trying to anticipate how I might deal with them, give them enough space, share the road space, where are the car parks as well. Coming up to these guys here, enough time to see, can I go through together? Do I wait for the car to come past? What's the best place to come through? Fine, wait for the car, but I think with the cyclist we're all able to manage to go through happily. Now I'm on the right-hand side, I'm in lane 2, and I could really stay out. There's good visibility, which would have let me come past this second cyclist. I've chose to come back in, possibly slightly safer, but maybe didn't need to. Back out now for this overtake here. Yep, I think re-watching that on the video, I'm probably happy with what I did, but it felt at the time from sitting in the seat that I probably could have stayed out. Again, it would have been good to be indicating, so it would have been clear to any traffic that was likely to emerge that that's what I was doing. Here, good view. We've got a right-hand turn, so I'm over towards position 1. A avoiding some of the wetter stuff in position 1. It goes into a left hand, so I'm moving towards position 3, transitioned across there. Looking for any further hazards, any further bikes or pedestrians or any kind of other road users. Good long view in terms of stopping distances, limit point closing up now, and then opening out a little bit. Warning sign for this right-hand bend, so over towards position 1, a kind of 1.5-ish, able to develop both sides of the road, move towards position 3, avoid the cyclist coming to position 2, back towards 3, looking ahead, using the gaps in the trees, the way the light falls through the trees to get a sense of where the road is, looking at the car park, trying to avoid that, so I'm more towards position 2 than otherwise might be the case. Dealing with the oncoming traffic by being towards position 1, 1.5, noting the staggered junction, but it's clear, so I'm happy to be in position 3, which let me prep for overtaking this cyclist. Looking ahead, I can see most of the road. There's a little bit that wasn't visible, and now it is, so able just to follow that through. Anticipating this left-hand turn, and we're into a single-track road technically without the white line at this point, so I could be using more road surface, giving space to the cyclist. Coming back out to improve my view, back towards the cyclist to avoid the cyclist and the oncoming car. Towards position 1 for the right-hand bend without coming too far over. Over this crest here, limit point closing, limit point opening. Towards position 1 just to manage that car. Nice long stretch of road, using the high gears. We're in a national speed limit area at this point, I believe. Coming down here, staggered crossroads coming up. Another warning sign for the crossroads. Here's the crossroads, just easing off, checking both sides of the road, it's all fine. Here we go. Warning sign coming up. Taking this right hand and then left hand turn. Trying to use the tree line and the hedge line to see where this road might go. Looking across the field gives a bit of a sense of how tight that radius is. You can just follow that hedge line around and across the field, and also riding to the limit point. So stopping in what I could see. Space for the cars, and then again this limit point closing up because I had to move for the cars. Back out towards 3, position 3 just for this area here, noting there's a driveway or a junction or something here. Over this crest, more in position 1.5 for that one. Turn to the bend to the right, so towards position 1.5, but I've noted the wheelie bins and the houses and driveways, so I'm not fully overcommitted. Now I'm heading round, able to develop the road, anticipate the left-hand turn that's coming up, so moving myself towards position 3, but not so close to the cyclist. Again, aware of the houses, so and looking to see where is it safe for me to be more towards position 1 or position 3. Tight bend here towards position 3 as I prepare for it, and then more 2.5, 2 as I come around, back to 3, and then moving over towards 1 for anticipating this right-hand bend. Driveways, so I'm just staying slightly outside of position 1, following this line of the road round. Fewer houses here, so I'm closer at that point there until I develop the road. Again, steep descent, easing the engine, following the road and the wall at this point. Gets a bit dark, having to probably just ease off and probably apply a bit of brake, because I think high gear here as we come down the hill is fine, but we have then got some warning signs for some turns. We've got a cyclist coming, and we've got a speed restriction, 30 miles an hour, so easing down the speed. So yeah, I think I'd applied a bit of brake as I came into that 30-mile-an-hour section, which was really because I'd been in a higher gear and didn't have the engine braking that I really needed. Giveaway sign warning was coming up. We're approaching the giveaway line here. We're going to be going right. So I wasn't quite sure whether that car was going to turn, so I hesitated to make sure that I could have a gap, otherwise I'd be really relying on the car driver definitely making the right-hand turn. But it was a bit hesitant, and I kind of ummed and ahed for a brief second at that junction, so possibly could have made a stronger decision to wait. In a 30-mile-an-hour section here, trying to stay away from the driveways where I can, looking ahead, seeing the warning sign, there's a flood warning sign, but also looking at the oncoming traffic, so just sharing the road space that we have, easing off my speed to make sure that's managed safely as a hazard as we pass each other, given the narrowness of the road. Tight turn now, looking at the limit point, so sticking into position 2 there, just in case someone would come around. Space for the cyclists, noting the cars and driveways, so trying to stick to position 2 roughly where I can, over more to 1 as we pass the car. I've got traffic ahead, but I'm not really catching it up because of the factor in a 30, and then we've got a give way sign coming up, so I'm looking for an indication as to whether we're going to go left or right. So I get a signal that we're going to go to the left, so I start to bring my bike over, angle it for a to be able to pull out the junction, having looked behind and into the road to check it was clear to do so. Positive steer coming into the road. I'm out, I'm into position 3, moving back to position 2 where we pass the cars. The road goes round to the left, so I'm 2.5-ish here. Got signs for a right then left, so I'm heading towards position 1. I'm probably in 1.5 at this point here. It's a reasonably tight turn. You can see from the looking through the trees at the wall line how that goes. Cut in a little bit on that corner. I probably should have stayed out a bit, but I cut in too much, I think. Starting to recognise vaguely where we are at this point. Following the road round to the left, and this time staying out towards position 3. There's lots of room to do that. Noting the amount of traffic that's building up here, driveways, warning signs for horses again, crests. So I'm towards position 1.5, 2 for that section, and then as it eases around to the left, going over to about 2.5. Back over towards 1.5 for this right-hand turn. Back over towards 3. No traffic behind, no traffic in front, back towards 2.5 as traffic, as we pass traffic here. Nice clear road ahead, noting the driveway, so I'm sticking in position 2 here, moving towards position 2.5 to 3 for the left-hand bend that's coming up. Still driveways, so back to position 2, looking ahead, seeing what we got around us. Over towards position 1, heading towards this right-hand bend, 1.5. Bend opens out, noting the sign for the school. Over towards position 3 for the left-hand bend, sign for the roundabout. So get a signal that we're going to be turning to the right. So position the bike slow, right down, coming into the roundabout, reading if there's any traffic coming in. No, there isn't, so I'm really just dealing with the road surface. That car is held as I'm coming past. So lots of slow control, so high engine revs, feathering the throttle, rear brake as we were coming round, and then we're into the 30 section. And just trying to manage the width restriction that's here, potential hazards from cyclists or the road users, bends and junction signs. Giving room for the cyclists. We're at 30, so I don't need to over-position in here. Again, I just need enough distance visible that I can stop the bike in should I need to. More warning signs here for junctions and height restrictions. I'm looking for a signal from Tony. It's a bit late, but yep, left. You can go either way. So a little bit of a late signal, but that's fine. I was anticipating it could have been either. I'm probably a little bit too close to the white line there, bad habits and so on, but trying to then not hang the bike over the white line, particularly as we're in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, but I have got pedestrians coming, so gently past, not causing any disturbance, and national speed limit signs on this section. The matching pair for the ones that weren't there at the beginning of the ride, so getting up towards national speed limit speed. Given the houses and things that are around, I'm not fully at 60 at this point here, but certainly using the full range of speed up to 60 miles an hour where it's safe to do so. So coming along here, I can see there are some hazards. I can see the road surface in position 1 is very uneven. Giving myself enough room and dealing with any of these junctions and things by being out towards position 3. Certainly here up into the 50s or 60 miles an hour, possibly getting up to that open section of road. Maintaining my safety bubble, making sure I'm balancing the risk from that poor road surface and the oncoming traffic. And prioritising that over trying to get any better visibility. And here was the width restriction. I ummed and ahed about quite what to do with this cyclist. Should I have really backed off more? Could we have enough room to pass on the bridge? And probably got that a bit wrong. I could have held back and cleared it. Probably was a bit intimidating if you're a cyclist to have a bike coming through quite so fast. Poor decision on my part. I'd observed, I'd anticipated, but my plan wasn't very good and wasn't executed in time. This now, series of country bends, so out towards position 3 for the left-hand turn. Cutting back slightly to 2.5 on the turn itself. Out to 3 here, anticipating this left-hand turn, back to 2.5. Then lining up for the right-hand turn over towards position 1 without getting too much in the muck, just straight through. Looking here as the road goes round to the left, so towards position 3, and then it eases over and turns more sharply to the right, giving room to the cars. Nice flowing series of bends. Over towards position 1, just dealing with the car without having to compromise my speed. Anticipating this turn here now to the left, so towards position 3. And now goes over towards the right, so dealing with those, just flowing through. I think that transitions quite well. Not over positioning for what I need to do. So just doing a good check. We've got some houses and junctions. Moving over towards position 2 to deal with the oncoming car, and then back towards position 3, which gives me a better view on the near side of the junctions and driveways and things. Back towards 2 for this junction here, particularly the car trying to overtake a cyclist at a junction. More cyclists. More oncoming traffic, so I'm staying over towards 1.5, 2 at this point, seeing that the road does bend round slightly to the right, so I'm more towards 1.5. And looking here as we're moving towards this left, so towards position 3. Up towards the section, slight incline as we start to head over the road, anticipating the overtake on the cyclists here. Haven't got a fantastic view too far ahead, so I have eased off my speed quite a lot to come over there. Looking for the speed limit signs as we come across. Where are they? Where did I miss them? Didn't see them. 30 miles an hour there, still didn't notice where they were. Hazard warning signs for a left and then a right as we head back into Ripley, but we're doing 30 miles an hour now, so not needing to over-position the bike dramatically. We have got people out walking, out cycling, biking, dirt on the road. So again, we had runners coming through here earlier. Managing the speed as we come through, 30 miles an hour, and easing off as we get nearer to the town, and there's more parked cars, more people that might emerge, more vulnerable road users, and I'm on the wet side of the road at that point. I know the way back from here, but getting confirmation from Tony that we're not going down this first road, we're going down and turning left at this one here. So position the bike for safety means I actually went over a kind of a drain thing just here, but that's fine. Safety over stability. Safety bubble maximised there. Gently past these parked cars, certainly a door's width away, looking for the cars emerging from the shops. Adjusting my position, splitting the hazard for the oncoming traffic where appropriate to do so. And then looking for the turn on the right into the Ripley Village Hall, Wey Valley Club. Someone's parked a car inconveniently just opposite. And in we go. Slow control going in, slow control in the car park. Haven't quite got fully used to these new handlebars and the fact that the lock on the bike is a little bit reduced, so I probably need to lean the bike a bit more assertively than I had previously to make these turns. But yep, all in, slow control, all good. Yeah, so that was a pretty good ride. Largely pleased with it. pleased that I went, and having been bullied into going, persuaded to go. It was good. Met a lot of good people. No, had a lot of fun, a lot of positive encouragement, and was encouraged to have an assessment ride to see whether or not I'm at the advanced rider standard, which would be an utter shock if I were to do so. So, future me, you probably already know what the outcome of that was. Past current me has no idea, and that's a little bit of a worry, because there's stuff I'm still not fully happy with, and there certainly is more practice to do. But no, as a first ride in 2020, pretty good.